Xi. I have a lot of respect for President Xi. I said, I don't blame you. If you're able to get away with making almost $500 billion a year off of our country, how can I blame you? Somebody agreed to these deals. And those people should be ashamed of themselves, what they've let happen.
You know, it reminds me of another remark that Donald Trump made back when he was on the campaign trail. I pay as little in tax as possible. See, this ties back into the rhetoric. Is it a deduction or is it a loophole? Donald Trump's saying, look, I'm not mad at the Chinese. Mad at our previous leaders that negotiated this horrible deal. They're not doing anything shady. They're maximizing a bad deal that we negotiated. What Donald Trump is saying is I can't figure out why we would negotiate a deal that does not work in our best interest. And those days are over. Again, I personally do not agree with the angle of attack that he wants to use to even the playing field. But it's repeating what he has said in the past. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to pay as little in tax as possible. The left says that's unpatriotic. Of course, this is the same party that also said George Bush was unpatriotic for running up $9 trillion in national debt. And then Obama continued to run up $60 trillion in unfunded liabilities and another $11 trillion in national debt. What Donald Trump is saying is you play by the rules that you're given. He's absolutely spot on. What reasonable business person, whether that is an individual, a business, or a foreign government, that isn't going to maximize whatever is on the table to be as advantageous as possible for them? Who wouldn't do that? And what Donald Trump just said in that clip right there, earlier at the White House, we negotiated a bad deal, and our trading partners are throwing it in our face, and they're maximizing it. And those days are over. Whether that is through nixing the TPP, renegotiating NAFTA, which is what these new tariffs are tied into, and yes, there will be collateral damage that comes along with it. They're trading partners. I mean, in theory, all the people that are in this agreement are allies. In theory. But again, as I've said for the last 2 years, I don't believe that this is the right strategy to leveling the playing field. Ladies and gentlemen, after the 7 o'clock news, we're going to switch over to some local politics. Do want to talk about gun control, what is going through Annapolis with Larry Hogan. It's 7 o'clock.
Stay connected with stimulating talk and breaking news on Talk Radio 680 WCBM, Baltimore.
I hit it, didn't I?
WCBM.com.
I actually might have been a second. Rounding up the rhetoric on trade wars. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. Concerns are rising about the implications of a plan by President Trump.
Okay, how long is this break going to be?
About 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
So, one suggestion was it may make sense not to kill the stream because then we lose everybody that built up on it.
It kicked off of there.
Okay.
I couldn't help that.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was trying to run it all the way through.
Okay. So,
I can only do it as good as my technology allows me,
I
as you know.
The details are expected to be released next week, and it's possible there could be carve-outs that exempt certain countries from these tariffs. But at this point, we know the president wants a 25% tariff on steel coming into the U.S. and 10% tariff on imported aluminum.
Fox's Molly Hindenburg. Crews in the Northeast are working to restore power after millions of customers lost electricity during yesterday's nor'easter.
There are still wind gusts that are reaching levels that are a little bit too high to start going up there in the power lines and restoring power. So, look, this could be a couple-of-day event for some folks, but there has been some progress. Some 100,000 customers have had their power restored in Massachusetts and Pennsylvania. Those are the two states that have been hit the hardest with power outages. Now, the powerful nor'easter packed sustained winds of 40 to 60 miles an hour through much of the Northeast, Virginia, Maryland, and Massachusetts, New York, with hurricane-force winds of 80 to 90 miles an hour.
Fox's Brian Yanis. Virginia, Maryland, and Massachusetts have declared states of emergency because of severe coastal flooding. The Central Michigan University student suspected of fatally shooting his parents Friday morning in a dormitory has been charged with murder. The university says 19-year-old James Eric Davis Jr. also faces a felony weapons charge. Police say the parents had just picked him up from a hospital where he was taken the day before for suspected drug abuse. Fox News, fair and balanced.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I'm 19 years old, and this is how I live united. I've always been kind of a computer geek, and I found a way to use those skills to help the homeless in my community. For people facing hard times, computer skills and a basic resume are so important. It may seem like a small thing, but it makes a huge difference in people's lives. So with United Way, I created a program where I work with the homeless. Together, we go through their whole job history, write a resume, and then save it on their very own USB drive. We provide workbooks and training certificates. I even budgeted for cupcakes so we can celebrate as a class when one of our people gets a job. That's huge. When somebody says, "Hey man, that job that you helped me apply for, I got it." That's what living united feels like to me. My name is Dale Pazinski. I help people achieve financial independence. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Strengthening gun laws, the topic of the Democratic Weekly Address. California Senator Dianne Feinstein making some recommendations.
We need to ban high-capacity ammunition feeding devices, like the 30-round magazines that fit into an AR-15. There's no reason to fire so many rounds without reloading.
Feinstein was among a bipartisan group of lawmakers who met with President Trump to discuss school safety. Russian President Vladimir Putin is campaigning for the Russian presidential election later this month, where he's vying to keep his current position.
Vladimir Putin addressed tens of thousands of his supporters at a campaign rally today in a Moscow stadium. The election itself is on March the 18th. It's been timed to coincide with the 4th anniversary of Russia's annexation of Crimea, a very patriotic day in Russia. In this election, Vladimir Putin is seeking to extend his rule by another 6 years. That's what one presidential term would give him. He's already been in power.
Actually, I was about to ask, is there anything you want me to come in with?
Not come in, but I'll throw to Trump melt on guns.
All right, just get that ready for you.
Yeah.
Wales and Scotland with huge snowdrifts.
Train services remain severely disrupted, not always by snow. In Taunton, volunteers continued to ferry staff and patients to hospital. Other rescuers found themselves stuck. Military help will continue as long as needed. The big melt. Flood warnings for the northeast and southwest. Lisa Dow's, Sky News.
An avalanche has prompted the closure of a second major California ski resort in as many days. The Mono County Sheriff's Department says 3 people were partially buried but unhurt by the avalanche today at Southern California's Mammoth Mountain Ski Resort. I'm Joe Cheer, Fox News Radio.
As the nor'easter finally pushes farther off the sea, we'll see the wind stick around for the rest of this weekend, but we're drying out through Monday. Partly cloudy overnight. Gusty early on, low in the low 30s.
Yeah, the internet's been out all day.
Okay. Gusting at 40 times, so those winds do die down a bit late. Sunshine for you Sunday.
Also, so you know, this Trump clip, the volume is really low, but I'm going to
just... Sunshine again Monday, not as windy. Highs, mid to upper 40s, more showers Tuesday. I'm Todd Bork, Weather Channel for Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa Segat, one of the doctors of Audiology Associates. Our group of doctors has been providing hearing and balance care in Maryland for over 35 years. Audiology Associates has grown to include 8 offices throughout Maryland, including the Eastern Shore and Annapolis. I would like to talk to you today about balance problems, also known as dizziness. 1 out of every 10 patients who visit their family doctor complains of dizziness.
Coffee's bad, but the hot chocolate's really good.
25% of the time, those balance problems are related to the inner ear. At Audiology Associates, we can diagnose the cause of your balance problems and also provide a treatment plan. You need not be bothered by dizziness anymore. Call 410-944-3100 or visit our website at aaiaudiology.com to make an appointment.
Can you put on your phone what demoralized means?
All insurance plans.
Yeah, I sent it to you.
I know, I can't. I'm having slow internet.
3100. Audiology Associates. When silence is not golden.
Tom, what do you like best about this job? I like to see the look on people's faces when they see the difference we made. Describe that difference.
20-ish.
We make places feel big and clean.
And do we have hard yacht or brand circuses in the next break?
A brand new day with
What's your hard yacht?
Yeah, hard yachts are in the 26.
Okay.
To do is point, and whatever you're pointing at will disappear.
You gotta keep touching
we work
before it
until
goes
midnight,
off.
7 days a week, so you never have to take out a jack. We can usually be there in about 9
Try one more time.
Visit 1-800-GOTJUMP.com.
The WCBM studios are sponsored by Safe Retirement
I
Solutions.
didn't hear you. One more time.
Did Jack lock the door behind him?
Did you lock the door?
Yes, I'll double check, but yes.
So what I'm being told by somebody is
All right,
that,
gentlemen.
that the feed is down, but they're catching this.
But they should be.
The Jimmy Mathis Show is sponsored
Yeah,
by
I've answered
Andy
6
Harris for
people already.
Congress. The Jimmy Mathis Show is brought to you by Bread and Circuses. This is Talk Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com. The Jimmy Mathis Show starts
Well, if you
now.
can send them to the feed.
Welcome back to the Jimmy Mathis Show with you till 8 o'clock. Then Pat McDonough picks it up from 8 until 10. Give us a call, 410-WCBM 680. New website for the show, JimmyMathisShow.com. Follow me on Twitter at Jimmy Mathis Show. On Facebook. Doing a little show prep here looking at Politico. Demoralized West Wing stokes fears over Trump's capacity to handle a crisis. I was joking around with Jack during the break. I said, what exactly does it mean to be demoralized? See, there's two things with Donald Trump here. And I'm not stumping for Donald Trump. And I think there's better ways from a decorum standpoint that he could handle himself. I do understand his Twitter habits, by the way. And I do understand his frustration. And I do understand the anger that he tapped into. And I do understand why he's president of the United States. Who out there is really demoralized? Do you really, are you feeling fatalistic in the country right now? Try to clear your mind for 1 second and look back over the last, he's been in office for, what, 140 days, 160 days, somewhere in that neighborhood. Already announced that he's going to run for a second term. Got real ahead of that one. How do we look on the world stage? Forget what you're hearing in the media. Forget the echo chamber that is the national media for 1 second. When's the last time we talked about Syria? When's the last time we talked about Iraq or Afghanistan or Libya or Egypt or Russia reconstructing the former Soviet Union? When's the last time we have had any international crisis? When's the last time we talked about ISIS? The caliphate that they were constructing? When's the last time we talked about any of this stuff? Meanwhile, you have the non-politician, you have a president that's actually delivering on campaign promises. Even if you don't agree with them. And again, I do not agree with these massive tariffs when it comes to free trade. I don't like the president's rhetoric when it comes to gun control this past week. Not at all. Most famous soundbite was the president talking about stripping away due process. Take the guns, we'll figure it out on the back end. No, don't agree with that one bit. Unfortunately, our governor's traveling down the same path. He's taking the bait. Talking about bump stocks. We'll get to this in a second, but editorial in the Baltimore Sun, Hogan's embrace of gun control, genuine conviction or political ploy. Who cares? It's the thing, Governor. The left doesn't care. And there's a lot of those on the right now that are very concerned about the Second Amendment. And they view this as a camel's nose under the tent. And it is. I was listening during the news to Dianne Feinstein. She's sitting here complaining about how many rounds a magazine can hold in an AR-15 when everybody knows that doesn't have anything to do with anything. And that's what, she's sitting here crowing about on the Democratic Weekly Radio Address. Thank God I don't have to play that goofy thing anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's no sincerity in any of this stuff. And the Governor Hogan, I believe, is trying to operate in good faith. And I am sure when he sees the images that came out of Florida, wants to make sure that that is not duplicated and absolutely wants to make sure that it doesn't come here to Maryland. Unfortunately, a lot of times, we take the bait when it comes to the rhetoric and to fool's arguments. And we take the bait when it comes to distraction. The distraction right now can be the bump stock, which wasn't even used in Florida.
No.
And it also wasn't used in any of the 300 and whatever homicides in Baltimore City. It's a non-issue. It was used in Las Vegas. 343 people murdered in Baltimore City last year. None of them died because of bump stocks. I'm not sure if any of them died at the barrel of an AR-15. I would imagine they were probably 9mm. They were pistols, I would imagine. But Governor Hogan, like all Republicans, they take the bait and they believe that they have to, at the very least, create the illusion that they're doing something that they care. Now, make no mistake about it. Of course the governor cares. And Democrats care. Okay? I'm not saying that. But if you're trying to have an intelligent conversation on how to deal with this stuff, it has nothing to do with bump stocks or magazine capacity or any of the conversations that we're having right now. As Mark Levin says time and time again, and he's spot on, all of these laws work when you're living in a civil society. Unfortunately, we're not there right now. So it doesn't matter what you legislate. And that has to be very frustrating to politicians out there, because politicians have to have an answer. There has to be a solution. Has to be a fix. Has to be a reason why it happened, and another reason or solution on why it will never happen again. So you do something symbolic. And then you have businesses, whether it's Dick's or, Walmart, that are raising the age or getting rid of certain weapons. Knock yourself out on that, by the way. But it doesn't solve any problems. And the proof in the pudding, ladies and gentlemen, really is this piece in the Baltimore Sun, Hogan's embrace of gun control, genuine conviction, or political ploy. Who cares? What they're saying is, even if the governor is doing this for all the right reasons, what this piece is saying is he's an idiot because he didn't do it sooner, is what they're saying. These two major pieces of NRA opposed legislation to take guns away from people who might be in danger. Baltimore County Executive Kevin Kamenetz, seeking the Democratic nomination for governor, tweeted that Maryland's strong gun control laws are despite you, not because of you. Talking about the draconian, unconstitutional laws that were passed under Martin O'Malley, where you have to purchase a license to exercise a constitutional right. That's what Kamenetz is doubling down on. Can't figure out why he's doing so well in Baltimore County right now. The only thing Kamenetz has going for him as far as running for governor is the rest of the state doesn't know who he is. You look at the absolute assault on property rights in Baltimore County. Ladies and gentlemen, take a trip through Cockeysville, through Hunt Valley, through Timonium, through Towson for that matter. Dundalk. Look at Baltimore County. Look at the businesses that are going out of business. Look at the assault on property rights. Look at the condition of our schools. And Kamenetz is tweeting about congratulations to Martin O'Malley for an absolute assault on the Second Amendment. It's truly stunning. I mean, it really is. And the only thing that frustrates me with our governor right now is, don't take the bait, sir. This is negotiating 101. You have to be negotiating in good faith. It's a saying in business. There has to be a meeting of the minds. Are we trying to achieve a common good? Are we working in harmony to achieve something? Don't oversimplify this. Or actually do oversimplify this. This is a slow creep on stripping away the Second Amendment. It has nothing to do with public safety. Has nothing to do with the homicide rate in Baltimore City. And you press the left on this at all, they will admit it. Well, yeah, I mean, look, bump stocks, we know, okay, bump stocks weren't used in any of the 340 whatever murders in Baltimore. Bump stocks weren't used in Orlando. Bump stocks weren't... But we can all agree you don't have a need for this. Right? It's like Dianne Feinstein during the Democratic response to the president's weekly radio address. The one thing we can all agree on. You hear that term over and over. The one thing we can all agree on. When you hear that, what they're saying is, if you have any rebuttal to what I'm about to say, you're an idiot. Because we can all agree on it. No, I don't agree on it. I didn't even know what a bump stock was before the massacre in Las Vegas. No. What I can agree on, Senator, is that big government doesn't work. That there was a breakdown within the FBI. That there was a breakdown within the police department and the sheriff's department. And with all of your draconian data mining. Didn't work. I'll agree with that. Is that one thing we can all agree on? Mm-hmm. The fact that we basically, I will bring this up afterwards. I don't have the piece in front of me. I'm not gonna ruin the lead-in. This ties back to the Obama administration. It really does. Is it possible that maybe we have some bad kids in some of these schools that are poisoning the rest of our kids? Is that possible? Well, yeah, you can't say that, okay? Because that can't be solved just by simply throwing money at the problem. How many warning flags needed to go up on this individual? But even Governor Hogan has taken the bait. Bump stocks, magazine capacity, the age of the individual purchasing the weapon. Again, it ties back into negotiating 101. If we're not operating in good faith, then there's nothing to talk about. And what exactly is it that we're trying to solve here? Does anybody even know? No! I'll give you something, but I gotta get something in return. And what you're asking for is a slow creep on stripping away the Second Amendment. As Trojan horsed as it may be, that's what you're asking for. Yeah. No. As Barack Obama once said, that's a non-starter. If the opposition is going to admit to the fact that this does nothing to solve crime, to solve murder, to solve gun violence, even they admit it, then no, that's a non-starter. But see, the right is always concerned that that will then be framed as they don't care. And that's the problem with a party that has a monopoly on morality and compassion. And that's why I love talking to Roger Stone, because it's about time that we start throwing that back. And we start setting the narrative. And we start making the case for what conservatism is and what negative liberty is. My 10-year-old, I took her, she's into horseback riding. I was taking her to her lesson today, and she's learning about the American Revolution. And she said to me, I'm not throwing her under the bus, but I guess I am. She said to me, she goes, I'm not even sure what side to be on. Think about that for a second. And she goes to one of the good schools. And I'm sitting there in the car and I'm trying to figure out how I, you know, in a minute or two, explain the American Revolution and the Bill of Rights and negative liberty and all these things that are running through my mind. How do you explain that to a 10-year-old who says, I'm not sure what side of the American Revolution to be on? But we'll go ahead and focus on bump stocks. Be right back.
What happened? You used to go hours without visiting the bathroom.
She really said that,
Now
huh?
it
Yeah.
seems like you're constantly getting up to pee, and you're even getting
So,
up at
I
night
think
to
the big
pee.
thing, Jimmy,
This
is pharmaceutical
not
companies.
okay. Listen,
with the weapons. These mass shootings. Look, that's the one thing that they all have in common.
A new wonder pill.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
I mean, that's the. A kid asked me a question at the wake I was at yesterday, and I went back to the pharmaceutical companies. You know, they weren't giving kids Ritalin, which is basically meth with is meth.
Pay shipping and
And then
still in Trump on guns on the ready.
Yeah, I'll throw that.
I mean, literally, Ritalin is basically meth.
May help support a
You're giving 6-year-olds meth,
Combine
and you're wondering why they're drug addicts and they're on heroin now.
You'd be crazy not
And they feel good. They get off their Prozac, and the next thing you know, they're shooting up a fucking school.
1-800-252-8940.
He got the warning.
Yeah. Seriously, it's.
I understand.
Yeah.
So Jack is penalized. He's got the foul language going on. He's the first one.
And normally I'm good at that. Well, in here.
That's okay. That's okay.
But it's pharmaceuticals. They weren't giving kids Ritalin in 1950. There were still machine guns in the 60s and the 70s. This is from.
Well, they were actually taking guns to schools, and they were target shooting in the 50s.
I remember in 1981 when I went to 7th grade, you could take archery classes at Holliburg Middle, or Holliburg Junior High at the time. And people were bringing their bows and arrows in. And you could still bring your pellet gun because you did the training with your pellet gun too. But you weren't allowed to bring your rifle.
Well, they did bring rifles in the 50s.
Yeah. And what's the difference? There's no pharmaceuticals.
What time do you want to break?
I think it's a moral breakdown.
That too. And that was the other thing I told this kid. It's parenting because
I'll probably start and stop that sound from Trump.
You have education now, or the education system has replaced the parent. So you don't have parents being parents. There's no accountability. There's no religion or any kind, which types of
moral values.
Yeah. And then you got my kid's hyper. I'm going to give him a medication that's going to make him a lifelong drug addict. And they're shooting up schools and everybody's scratching their head. Why?
Well,
it's not the guns.
They have the public sold on a magic pill.
Yeah.
Somehow a pill's going to cure you, and that's not. Sometimes it helps, no doubt about it. But they want to demonize marijuana,
and that helps.
Which there's so many benefits to that. It's unbelievable.
I know.
So,
I just
for one thing, we could if they could use it to replace paper.
Well, now you're talking about paper lobbyists and lumber lobbyists. Now you're talking about the rubber tree
Well, I
lobbyists.
understand
Now
all
you're
that.
talking
I understand all
the
that.
pulp
But,
business.
so we're also talking about it creates our oxygen. That's very important.
This is Talk Radio 680, WCBM and WCBM.com. Now more of the Jimmy Mathis Show, brought to you by Bread and Circuses.
Welcome back to the Jimmy Mathis Show with you till 8 o'clock. Then Pat McDonough picks it up. Give us a call, 410-WCBM-680. Follow me on Twitter at Jimmy Mathis Show. New website for the show, JimmyMathisShow.com. Bread Circuses is the new title sponsor of the show. They've been with me for about a year now. Guys, if you haven't been out to Bread Circuses, they're located beautiful downtown Towson, right on the corner of Chesapeake and Delaware Avenue, right across from the courthouse. Bread Circuses is where we hold all of our events. I normally don't commingle my campaign with the radio show, but that is where we had our kickoff event last Saturday with Congressman Andy Harris. Steve and Martha, they make you feel at home. It is the best food that you're going to find in the state. Absolutely awesome setting. Very cool. Whether you're looking to, baseball season will be here before you know it. Catch the game outside, fine dining inside on a cold night. They still got the fireplace going. Awesome artwork. Charlie Barton is the artist of all the artwork inside. It's all available for purchase. Their kitchen right now is open till 2 a.m. So when everybody else is closing down in Towson and you want to sneak in there around 1:30, get a bite, get a late night drink, it is your only destination. When Roger Stone comes back to town on April 14th, we're bringing Roger back. He'll be out at Bread Circuses, an opportunity for everybody to come out and meet Roger. So get out to Bread Circuses, and don't forget to tell them that Jimmy Mathis sent you. Talking about gun control, which is front row center again, because of the horrible shooting in Florida a couple weeks ago. And there's an old saying in politics, tombstone policy, where you take a tragedy and you use that to move policy forward. And look, you can say, well, you know what, Jimmy, there's just too many of these stories happening these days. It's not an isolated situation. It is Columbine. It is San Bernardino. It is the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. It is the massacre in Las Vegas. It is the shooting in Florida a couple weeks ago. These are not isolated things. This is the new norm. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And the problem is you're trying to put all the blame on an inanimate object. And that's not the culprit. And I will continue to come back to whatever restrictions, regulations, legislation that you want to put in place. That only works when you live in a civilized society. And when you have portions, as small as it may be, of the electorate, of the populace, that don't care about other people's lives, and they definitely don't care about their own, then none of this stuff matters. And that ties into the frustration / anger that Donald Trump was able to tap into. Because what politicians are asking from us right now is for the law-abiding people to concede more and more liberty. It's that simple. And you can make the argument on, well, what do you need an AR-15 for? What do you need 30 rounds in a magazine for? And, you know, it's been said many times, but it's the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Needs. And it's true. And it really hit home to me today when, you know, I'm with my daughter who is in school right now, who can't figure out what side of the American Revolution she would be on. Because that sure does speak to the direction that our educational system is going right now in America. It also ties into, you know, the way that we are manipulating students in these protests. And manipulation, by the way, is synonymous with indoctrination. Do you think right now in social studies they're teaching about negative liberty? Do you think that they are teaching the reason why the Bill of Rights was special and needed to be separate in the beginning? Do they understand negative liberty, the contract from the people to the government, consent of the government, or consent of the governed, on what the government cannot do? And the founders thought that for us to bear arms was pretty significant. Is that lesson being taught right now? Or are kids being used as pawns? And when you see the images right now on the national news, day in, day out, it sure seems like they're being used as pawns. And you can say what you will about Donald Trump, but, you know, he positioned himself as being the non-politician. And when you hear remarks like what he made earlier in the week, take the guns now, we'll do due process later, that's part of him being a non-politician. Because let me tell you something, there's a lot of Americans right now that agree with that. I do not. But there's a lot of Americans out there that go, look, here's a guy that had countless flags on his record. The FBI was notified. State police were notified. Local police were notified. If you see something, say something. 36 plus times, this is inexcusable. Take the guns, guys. Take the guy's guns. It's inexcusable. That's what Donald Trump is tapping into. Again, I do not agree with it. You look here at the state level. Governor Larry Hogan. Well, at the very least, we can get rid of bump stocks. Before that, you go to the legislation back in 4 years ago under O'Malley, limiting the size of the magazine, making it where you have to purchase a license to exercise a constitutional right. And the governor was very outspoken about that, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And there's also a lot of frustration right now, as we're getting ready to enter into an election, that the governor hasn't done enough to be pro-Second Amendment, whether that's conceal and carry or dialing back some of the previous pieces of legislation. And you can look at the politics of this and, you know, dissect it ad nauseum. But to add to it right now, and I keep coming back to this bump stock thing because it is a camel's nose under the tent. Donald Trump earlier in the week from the White House. Donald Trump on gun control. Go, Mr. President.
If you're going to put concealed carry between states into this bill, we're talking about a whole go through due process. You can't buy a handgun at 18, 19, or 20. You have to wait till 21. But you can buy the gun, the weapon used in this horrible shooting at 18.
So Seth, hold on 1 second. We'll start from the beginning in 1 second. This is a melt from the president, and he is making every wrong argument on this topic. We're talking about the age of the individual. I understand younger American in Florida a couple weeks ago. That removed. All been grown-ups doing this. It's all been adults. How old was the individual at the Pulse nightclub? How old was the individual in Las Vegas? These aren't kids. But again, we have to do something. Again, I will come back to the bump stocks, a non-issue. Even gun guys did not know what bump stocks were before Las Vegas. See something, say something. Had no effect over what happened in Florida a couple weeks ago. So even Republicans right now, you look at what they're grabbing onto, because they realize that they are in constant pursuit of the question to which there is no answer. Does everybody see that? But we have to do something. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we're going to up the age. And now you have individual businesses that are doing this. Pro Bass, Dick Sports. Upping it to what? I don't even know. This country also, to that point, needs to figure out what the age is to be an adult and then stick to it. I mean, this has been an argument, conversation that's been going on for, the last 50 years. Okay, so I'm old enough to be drafted, but I'm not old enough to get a beer. Okay, I'm old enough to have a beer, but I'm not old enough to have a gun. Okay. Mr. President, go.
You can buy the gun, the weapon used in this horrible shooting at 18. You are going to decide. The people in this room pretty much are going to decide. But I would give very serious thought.
You know what's funny? The Democrats aren't going to play along with him on this. The same way whatever Governor Hogan tries to do at the state level, the Democrats at the state level aren't going to play along with it. Because nobody's operating in good faith. It seems like it's a missed opportunity, and maybe I'm totally off point on this, but it seems like it's a missed opportunity for the right, for conservatives, to make the case on why there is a Second Amendment. And to start to have an honest conversation on why these crimes are happening. And there's so many offshoot reasons that aren't even in the echo chamber right now. Have you noticed that all these individuals were on some sort of drug? Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
That's not making its way into the conversation. Is it possible, I'm just throwing this out there, is it possible that there's some kids that probably should be expelled? Is that possible? I think this is a missed opportunity. I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I really don't care. I think that this is a missed opportunity with the governor right now. This is all a political move. And what the governor is trying to do is to win over moderate Democrats. And I think he very much is concerned about the story that we saw in Florida coming here to Maryland. And he's probably looking at it and saying, if I can do anything, why not? What does it cost to outlaw bump stocks or to limit magazine capacity or to raise the age, as Donald Trump said? These are all symbolic things. It doesn't hurt me, right? Well, they are symbolic things. But it's not going to solve anything. And what is happening is those on the right that are gun guys, that do understand the Constitution, that do understand negative liberty, do understand why there's a Second Amendment, they're rolling their eyes. And they're not going to be energized, or at least not in the right way, in a couple months. And those on the left, as the Baltimore Sun so elegantly put, what does it matter? Your intentions don't matter. What you're doing right now, you should have done a long time ago. We don't know if you're sincere or not. Hogan's embrace of gun control, genuine conviction, or political ploy, who cares? Even if all of a sudden Governor Hogan had some come-to-Jesus moment, he was like, I never thought about it. I think I should be a liberal. Even the Baltimore Sun's like, all right, well, who cares? Hey, that's their headline, not mine. It doesn't matter. Even according to their ideology, if he's doing all the right things for all the right reasons, they still won't give him credit for it. And isn't that what we're talking about at the end of the day? Because if it's not about accolades and it's not about credit, then what's the point? We've already established that it doesn't solve anything, right? Then what are we playing the game for? And that's all it is. Ladies and gentlemen, there's only so many things at play at one time. We're not going to bring crime down, right? Any liberal that wants to walk in here, okay, we can have this conversation. We get rid of bump stocks. That's, again, guys, it's not my legislation, all right? This is from the governor. We're talking about bump stocks. We get rid of bump stocks. We go door to door. We get rid of every bump stock there is, okay? I don't even know what one looks like, okay? But evidently it seems to be a major problem because it's all we talk about. So we get rid of the bump stocks. Does crime go down? No. Okay. Do you get credit for doing something? As the Baltimore Sun says, who cares? What's the point? Other than it is one step closer for where the left ultimately wants to go. And the kicker is, even if they got what they wanted, it wouldn't matter. I mean, those that are, Second Amendment through and through and through, I guess, what's the biggest concern? Gun confiscation, would that be the biggest? That'd be the holy grail, the worst thing to happen? Okay, there's more guns than there are people in America. So you're not getting rid of all the guns. So you're still not solving the problem. I don't know. Maybe I'm making more out of it than it is, but it just seems like it's negotiating 101. And you have to be operating in good faith. And it seems like every argument on an assault on the Second Amendment, and I'm going to call it for what it is, doesn't do anything to solve the underlying problem. And if you're not negotiating in good faith, then we're not talking. And for some reason, the left has no problem with walking away from bad deals, yet the right seems compelled to participate in them to show some goodwill. And then you get headlines like the one in the Baltimore Sun, who cares? You're listening to the Jimmy Mathis Show, Talk Radio 680 WCBM. Give me a call, 410-WCBM 680, 410-680. I'm sorry, new number. 410-922-6680. Also, a new website, Jimmy Mathis Show. Follow me on Twitter, @Jimmy Mathis Show. Quick break. We'll be right back. You are listening to the Jimmy Mathis Show.
As nor'easter finally
Do
pushes
you
farther off
literally
the sea,
know
we'll
what
see
a
the
bump
wind
stock
stick
is?
around for the rest of this
I
weekend,
do.
but we're drying out
I'm
Monday.
just looking at it. I had no idea.
It's just a little piece you take off the old.
Yeah, it's for your shoulder, and it helps to.
And it only goes like up to the trigger. It's
Yeah.
only a little area right there. So.
Sunshine for you
And
Sunday. Now the winds pick up
the
mainly for the afternoon. Highs upper 40s. Northwest wind back
The
to
recoil.
20,
The
30
recoil,
allows it to
exactly.
stay.
The recoil
Monday,
just
not
keeps
as
it going.
windy.
That's what
Highs
happens.
will be upper 40s. More showers Tuesday. I'm Todd Bork, Weather Channel for Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
What happened? You used to go hours without visiting the bathroom. Now it seems like you're constantly getting
And it was
up to
originally
pee,
made for
or even
handicapped
getting up at
people.
night to go. This is not okay. Listen, the makers of Super
That
Beta
was,
Prostate, the
I
number
think.
one prostate formula, are introducing a new wonder pill, Super Beta Prostate P3 Advanced, with 3 key ingredients that are great for your prostate. It's like taking 3 prostate supplements in one. To celebrate, we're sending free bottles to men who want to cut down on bathroom trips. Yes, your first 30-day supply is free. Pay shipping and
Yeah, Switchwood has it right.
1-800-252-8940. Early research suggests that an ingredient
12 billion
P3
guns,
advanced
population
may help
8 million,
support a
lowest crime
normal
rate.
prostate size. Combine
Everybody
that
over
with
there.
and urges to
I
pay
mean,
switch
that-
to a formula
I'm sorry,
you'd
it
be
wasn't
crazy
Australia,
not
so.
to try. Get
I thought
P3
New
Advanced
Zealand was like
free.
that too.
Call 1-800-252-8940.
Anything else you want to use?
Come out with the Trump milk.
The Trump milk again?
Yeah, just come out with it.
252-8940.
Looking for great food and the best ambiance in town? Look no further than Bread and Circus' Bistro, located in the heart of Towson. It's my only destination for weekend brunch, fine dining.
Is the Trump milk like audible to you? Like you can hear it?
Now has their kitchen open till
Yeah, it's low. I could hear it.
All right, cool. I mean, I'm just listening as far as I can get it.
Yeah, I mean that's on my end, but yeah.
The walls are decorated with Charlie Barton artwork, and it's all available for purchase. Bread and Circus' Bistro. Check them out on Yelp or TripAdvisor, and don't forget to tell them that Jimmy Mathis sent you.
Want to lower your rate and payments? Get rid of mortgage insurance or get cash out? Find out about your best refinance options by tuning in to the Get Mortgage Fit radio show. Sundays, 10 a.m. to 11
Well, the camera's doing
and
it
then
halfway
1
decent
p.m.
now.
to 2
It's
p.m.,
I
where
don't know.
you'll
I
learn
never know
everything
why
you
it
need
does
to know
what it
about
does.
mortgage loans, today's rates, FHA, VA, and more.
You know how
Call the
social
Get
media
Mortgage
stuff
Fit
is.
radio show. 800-827-RATE. 800-827-RATE. NewAmericanFunding.com. NMLS 6606.
Events are happening faster than ever.
Killed 17 people.
School safety, gun control.
The SBI.
Cybersecurity. Russian nationals sought to interfere.
Keep up with your world. Talk Radio 680, WCBM.
This is Talk Radio 680, WCBM and WCBM.com. Now more of the Jimmy Mathis Show, brought to you by Bread and Circuses.
If you're going to put concealed carry between states into this bill, we're talking about a whole new ballgame. Take the legislation, go through due process second.
You can't buy a handgun at 18, 19, or 20. You have to wait till 21. But you can buy the gun, the weapon used in this horrible shooting at 18. You are going to decide. The people in this room pretty much are going to decide. But I would give very serious thought.
Well, if we're going to collectively decide, let's go ahead and have a constitutional amendment. We've amended the Constitution in the past. It's not unheard of. We did it with booze. Yeah, we did it with booze twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 18th Amendment, let's get rid of booze. And then people said, you know what? I like booze. And then they said, you know what? Let's do the 21st Amendment.
Holstead Act?
All right, let's kick it off with Craig in Anne Arundel County. Craig, good evening. How you doing, my friend?
Hello, Jimmy.
Good to talk to you.
I just wanted to say I support the if we would outlaw the bump stocks, just do this. We'll outlaw that. I think a lot of the anger would subside and all the other things that might jeopardize the Second Amendment.
I promise you that would not be the case. I promise you.
Just an opinion.
Let me ask you a question, Craig. I mean this with all due respect. What you're talking about is appeasement. When in the history has appeasement ever worked?
Well, this current climate with the Democrats, it wouldn't work very much. But personally, I also think the bump stocks evades what I would term the spirit of the law. You don't want automatic rapid-fire invention.
But with all due respect, Craig, that's not what you were talking about. What you were saying is let's go ahead and extend an olive branch, and by doing so, the people that are trying to strip away the Second Amendment would stand down. Okay, so we go ahead and we outlaw bump stocks, and I think you and I can both agree at the end of the day that does nothing when it comes to violence involving guns. So with that being said, the conversation doesn't change, correct?
Well, we still have other problems, definitely.
Okay. So what do we get by outlawing bump stocks?
I think that will. Well, we've already had one in Las Vegas, and I would hate to wait until we have another before we consider it as something that needed to be done. Be proactive, so to speak.
Well, how far down that trough do you want to go? Forget bump stocks. If you want to be proactive, just get rid of the gun.
Now, I keep the gun. I just think that if we could restrict, if we're going to control the fire of the gun itself, that should be done at the original manufacturing, because if we allow bumps, there's somebody out there now trying to invent a rapid fire add-on that could do 7, 8, 1,000.
Well, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of bump stocks, is to circumvent what the manufacturer is doing with the gun. It's the whole point of bump stocks, right? Is to take a semi-automatic weapon and turn it into a somewhat hybrid, fully automatic weapon. That's the whole point behind bump stocks.
Now I'm a little confused if would allow that to happen in the first place.
All right, my friend, don't be a stranger. Appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. Let's head out to Greg again, Glen Burnie. Greg, good evening. How you doing, sir?
Hi, just fine. Yourself?
Doing well.
Yeah, I don't understand why every time something happens, they want to take away our constitutional rights. I mean, the Second Amendment was not only for protection from criminals, but also protection from our own government in case they decide to take us over.
Yeah.
And as far as the schools go, if they make all the schools one way in, and there's an armed guard there, and they check all your backpacks, that would solve the problem, and that minimal expense. They want to put in bulletproof doors or doors that close automatically. What happens if the door closes automatically and children are trying to get into a classroom and they're locked out and they get gunned down in the hallway? Nobody's even thought about that.
Yeah, and look, I mean, they've already got countless security measures in place as far as entering a school. You go to any public school during business hours, and the doors are locked. You're not just walking into the office, okay? They have to see who you are. They have to clear you. You know, the doors are open remotely. You come in, you go to the office. You're not taking even your own kid out of class without being, you know, in the system. And again, as horrific as these stories are, is this really? I mean, of course, it's a problem when it occurs. I'm not dismissing the significance of it, right. But as far as being used as justification for stripping apart the Constitution, which is what the left is doing with it, you know, there's lots of different ways, obviously, to protect our schools. And here's the thing, Greg. The left isn't willing to have an honest conversation about that, because that's not what we're really talking about. That's the whole point.
And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I hope I'm wrong, but I bet you they have some more school shootings before any one thing gets done. Now, if this was to happen in the halls of Congress, you can best believe that problem would be fixed tomorrow.
Yep. Greg, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. Let's head out to Bruce in Baltimore. Bruce, good evening. How you doing?
Good evening. So, you know, I agree with you. The Democrats in particular, and some Republicans, but particularly the progressives, they, you know, they're not going to stop. If it's not bump stocks, or it's the ammunition, or it's how many rounds we can hold. So they're not going to stop. So and it's tragic that these kids were killed, and the system failed them. Unfortunately, some of law enforcement failed us. But you know what? I just got a letter today in the mail from the National Rifle Association. I did have a membership at one time. I did donate, never owned a firearm, but support the Second Amendment, and have had professional training as a security guard about 3 decades ago. I'm 64 now, and I know a considerable amount of people that are hunters, collectors, that have owned firearms of all different sizes and shapes, have never pointed a gun at anybody in anger. So what I would suggest is the people out there to support Second Amendment, the NRA, now they want to demonize the NRA. I'm going to send in a donation, whatever I can afford to the NRA, and I call my representatives, call them and let them know I support the NRA, and we're going to stand for the gun rights, and we're not going to let them intimidate us or demonize the NRA or Republicans or anybody's a gun owner.
Bruce, I agree. I agree with you 1,000%. Thank you very much. I have supported the NRA in the past, and I'm not a gun guy. I don't own a gun. I go shooting every now and then. I enjoy shooting. I choose not to have a gun in the house because I have small children. But I support the NRA, and I support the Second Amendment, and I support the Constitution. And I do not like the way that the NRA has been demonized through this entire process. And I do not like the left taking individual horrific stories and bastardizing those stories to rip the Second Amendment out of the Constitution. I don't like that one bit. And I don't believe the problem is because of bump stocks or how many bullets a clip or magazine or whatever you call it, or how quick you can fire a bullet off is the problem. Being somewhat facetious, I got Jack sitting to my left right here. If I put a gun in front of him, who's the first person in the studio you would shoot? Well, Zeph probably, but okay. I mean, just because you have a gun, okay, all of a sudden, or you're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, it's like a hot dog, You're a hot dog, I got to eat it. I might as well shoot somebody. What's the point of having this thing? But that's the problem when you start making the argument of what do you need it for? And again, those on the right take the bait. They always do. Because the only thing we need a gun for is to shoot deer or defend ourselves. First of all, defend ourselves from who?
Criminals.
Jack said criminals. A lot of ambiguity on that one also. Let's go to Jim in Pasadena. Jim, good evening. How you doing?
How you doing there, buddy? Well, I tell you what, I think I never knew what a bump stock was, and I've got several guns, and I'm a lifetime NRA member. Never knew what a bump stock was. Didn't know what a bump stock was. But I think with the bump stocks, being Tim McVeigh blew up that building, I think we ought to ban bump stocks, diesel fuel, and fertilizer.
I was going to say horse manure or cow manure. I'm not sure what Timothy McVeigh's manure of choice was, but yeah, that should be outlawed, and rider trucks should be outlawed, and baseball bats should be outlawed, and knives should be outlawed, and guns should be outlawed, and bump stocks should be outlawed, and guns should be outlaws, and fists, by the way, should be outlawed. And
I have a bumper sticker from 1976 from the NRA, and it says, when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Well,
you can't just take all the guns away, because when you do, nobody is going to say, there's resistance in that house, I better not go in there. They're going to know nobody's got any guns.
Tyrannical government needs two things. Thank you very much for the phone call, Jim. I appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.
Two things you got to do. You have to disarm the citizenry, and you have to control the media. That's pretty much the playbook for running a tyrannical government. And the first thing that they do is they disarm the people, and then they control the messaging. Interesting email came in. Where were the Democrats on gun control when the Republicans got shot on the softball field? Yeah, that wasn't a rallying cry. And that was in their own family. When it comes to Congress.
Rushing gun.
And that wasn't a rallying cry. But again, it doesn't make for the same story. And you have a group of people that are polling at 10% getting shot versus a bunch of innocent school children. It's a different story. 7:55, you're listening to the Jimmy Mathis Show on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
What happened?
Dude, that was with a Russian SKS semi-automatic assault rifle. This is straight from the playbook of Sullivan's.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I'm reading it reading the article right now. It says eight things to do.
Super Beta Prostate P3 Advanced.
I mean,
with
Christ, class warfare, religion, healthcare, poverty, debt, gun control.
To celebrate, we're sending free bottles to men who want to cut down on bathroom trips.
They divided
the bump out song.
Supply is free.
They divided kids from adults. They divided blacks and whites, women from men.
It's class warfare.
So we have nothing but division.
Yeah. Well, and they call that the useful idiots.
Yeah, I'll do 59.50. You got it.
P3 Advanced free. Call 1-800-252-8940.
Remember, Hillary and Obama both idolize that guy.
1-800-252-8940.
Hi, this is Sean Casey.
We wrote the
I'm here
book,
to tell
Rules
you
for
about
Radicals.
WCBM's newest sponsor, Clearview Window and Door Company. They're installing beautiful new windows in my home, and I can let you know from personal experience that Clearview
Control the healthcare, is
Scott
control the
McDonough
people.
live or?
Yeah, he won't fire.
Okay.
First,
Did you get
I
it?
asked
I
him
didn't
whether
see
he offers financing, and
The
does
more
he
poor
ever?
people you have, the more dependent they are, the more they won't fight down.
And 0% interest
Pat's
for
here
7
now?
years.
Yeah.
It really makes the whole house window job or roofing, siding, or new entrance door very affordable for our
Increase debt to an unsustainable
Next, I
level.
asked Sam where his products are
Unsustainable level.
made, and I know
When you're
you're
able
gonna
to
love it.
All the
increase the
products
taxes,
we
this will
furnish
produce
and
more
install
poverty.
are manufactured in the
Poverty
U.S.
is
of A.
controlled.
What about the
1619 for one.
Most of our products have a lifetime warranty.
So please, give Clearview Window
I
and
mean,
Door
I
Company a
should.
call at
You mind?
410-668-1110.
No. Which one? Part M or
That's 410-668-1110. Or online at
Okay.
getclearview.com.
I mean, I'm literally gonna be up on
That's
20 minutes.
getclearview.com.
He's providing this.
Yeah, I know.
This is Drew Tignanelli of
No,
Money
he
Riches
lives by
and Wealth.
you.
Each Wednesday
He
night at
lives
6
by you.
p.m., I interview a guest
I don't
on
wanna-
personal
I don't wanna
finances to help educate you. Listen
by the way.
Wednesday night at 6 p.m. to Money Riches and Wealth on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
This is Talk Radio 680, WCBM and WCBM.com. Now more of the Jimmy Mathis Show, brought to you by Bread and Circuses.
Again, get out to Bread and Circuses, located right off of Chesapeake and Delaware Avenue, right in the heart of Towson. We got a couple events that we're putting together over at Bread and Circuses Bistro. Roger Stone, you can hear him every Saturday here for the Stone Zone. Roger will be traveling to town. Again, we had him about a year. Is that pushing a year now?
It was April 26th, yeah.
It was last April that we had Roger Stone come to town. Roger will be out at Bread and Circuses on April 14th. We're getting all the details worked out on that, but a good opportunity to come out and see Roger. So get out to Bread and Circuses, tell him that Jimmy Mathis sent you. Also, we will get more details on this next week, but we're going to start taking the show on the road. Every week we're going to try to tape a portion of the show at various restaurants and colleges around the area. It's an opportunity for you guys to come out, get a chance to meet the cast of characters and politicians, business owners, the people that matter. Segment is called The People's Voice. It's brought to you by Ed Hale Jr. And I'm really excited about it because chance to get out of the studio a little bit. So that'll be cool. Our first location will be on St. Patrick's Day over at Fazzini's in Cockeysville. So get out to Fazzini's on the 17th, correct? St. Patrick's Day is
Yes.
the 17th. Between 2 and 4-ish. We're getting the details worked out on that. But thank you very much to Ed Hale, who is running for Baltimore County Council in the 3rd District. He'll be a regular on that. Also, out at Hard Yak Cafe on March 31st, broadcasting live. Zeth, thank you very much. Jack Beal, always a pleasure. Roger Stone, thank you. Everybody have a great weekend. God bless you. See you next Saturday. Bye.
Email? You got an email?
Really? All right, easy guys. Turn it off now. So
that's fine.
Close now.